Thank you for staying with us tonight on this special edition of Consider This with me, Melisa, Idris, as well as my colleague Sharaad, Kuttan. We are joined, of course, in the studio by Fadiah Nadwa Fikri, lawyer and activist. She was our guest a bit earlier, talking about the peaceful gathering yesterday, which was leaderless, and it was called Demokrasi Mati, Ayuh Turun ke Jalan. Democracy is dead. Let's go to the streets.
I wonder if any protest is truly leaderless. I mean, you're clearly an influencer.
Yeah, how does that come together?
And I asked you this in all honesty. I mean, you, like many activists, you know, educate people, you give them a vocabulary, you give them theories of democratic change, you give them theories of what a good governance might be. So I want to ask you, I mean, in shaping that, what's your sense of people's literacy, political literacy in Malaysia? We've had 20 months of a new government. How do you rate our political literacy?
Okay, I was raised as an activist by street protest. So I learned about democracy, I learned about reclaiming your rights, understanding what freedom means from street protest. Because I think a lot of people still feel, what's the point of going to the street? Even for yesterday's protest, some people said that it's pointless, nobody's going to listen to us. But at the same time, people were asking, aren't we going to do anything about it? What about Bersih? What about other organizations? Are we going to call a rally? And somehow people feel it's very urgent. Somebody has to call the shot. So for me, I feel like we are in a crisis. If we don't do something, if the people don't reclaim the space to say that, hey, we are also part of this conversation, we want to be addressed and we want you to listen to what we have to say, then they will be forgotten, the people.
Right.
So I think, and a lot of people still don't understand, you know, how important it is for them to be out there to reclaim their voices, to reclaim the space. The police were there, like heavy presence of police officers, like maybe 30 of them, and we're not that big. But a lot of people feel, oh, why? What's going on? And they tried to stop us, you know, and also this rumor going around saying that somebody's going to come and create chaos. But I felt motivated when I saw people still turned up. People said, after we concluded the whole event, are we doing this every day? Should we come back? Because we want to talk about these issues, because they feel like they're not being heard.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, how are you telling them? You know, you said that this is all part of political literacy or part of the pro-democracy understanding of education, right? So what is it that you're telling people to do? Is it take to the streets? Is it go to the polls? Are you asking for polls to be held?
I'm trying to get the people to understand that when we talk about politics, it's not just about the political elite. It's about them against us, the people. It's about us checking their power. Because when we talk about checks and balances, we always talk about the opposition. And then, for example, before this whole crisis, oh, UMNO is the opposition. That is the kind of is that the kind of opposition that we want? I mean, we should ask that question, right? So UMNO will never, ever, ever side with the people. And
well, I mean, okay, let's be fair to UMNO. UMNO got millions of votes, right? Regardless of how you might feel about individuals within that you know, configuration, they had millions of votes. PAS had millions of votes. If there were somebody who could claim to speak on behalf of the people, or at least millions of people, it would be them. Isn't that fair to say?
I think it's about reclaiming the narrative that speaks about universal values, about justice, about freedom. When we talk about racism, can they say now, publicly, openly, that racism is fine? They will not say that, but they will do it surreptitiously, yeah? They're not going to do it, you know, in front of everybody, but they're going to be subtle about it. So I think it's about that contestation is ongoing. So that's why I feel people have to seize that moment and try to push the narrative to be out there.
Should we actually stop talking about the people, the riot, this concept as if it was a block, it is an abstraction, isn't it? Should we disaggregate? I mean, there's some Malaysians who want policies that are inclusive. There's some Malaysians who don't want, who cling to identity and community in ways that you might think is undemocratic, not particularly progressive or reactionary. Shouldn't they all have a space to speak?
Yes, of course, but if you are advocating for something that is racist, that is sexist, that is classist, for example, should you be given that space, for example? You already have that space everywhere. For example, you are funded, let's talk about ISMA. Yeah, they're like properly funded, they get to go to public universities to talk about their ideas, but what about people like us? People who want to talk about values that we can use to unite instead of divide. People like us won't have that kind of space. I'm glad that I'm given this space today, but to a lot of people, they feel like we need to go somewhere. Even the media, for example, they just focus on what's going on with the political elite. They don't talk about issues that really affect the people while this crisis is unfolding. For example, the fear, that someone says that, riot is going to happen. Who's focusing on that? Who's talking about that? And this morning, the graduate, Wong Yan Ke, was charged in court for protesting against his racist VC during his convocation ceremony. No one talked about that. And also, a bunch of Orang Asli activists marched to the Selangor MB office. Who was talking about that today?
Good point.
We should be pointing at people who are being affected by what's going on in this country. And yeah, we need to hear their voice. We need to give more space to them. And we want people who are scheming and plotting right now to be accountable to them and answer and address their plight.
All right, well said. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have on the show today, Fadiah. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. That's all the time we have on this episode of Consider This. Now, our colleagues on the news desk will be bringing you all the latest updates as this political situation develops. Thank you so much for watching, and good night.